Hello again, everyone. Byron here. I'm here with Debra.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Indeed. You had a fabulous keynote this morning. Congratulations on a riveting presentation. Really, really awesome.
Thanks. It was really fun. It was a fun crowd.
Thank you. So we want to learn a little bit about, tell us a little bit about Mindset Digital,
Sure.
what you're doing. It's quite a story.
Yeah, so Mindset Digital got started because we realized we wanted to rid the world of bad corporate training.
Got it.
So nothing lofty or anything like that. I was teaching at Ohio State. We were teaching graduate courses on the impact of digital media on public policy, and people started saying, love what you're doing with CNN and 60 Minutes and Chicago Tribune, because we launched a social media fellowship, the first social media fellowship for journalists in the country. Can you help my company think about how we write in 140 characters, or how do we get down to what's most essential to share? So today, we're doing training on how do you communicate in really more impactful ways for an audience that has an 8-second attention span. I mean, we're just not tuning in, right? We're always looking at our watch. We're always looking at our phone. If you don't capture my attention fast, I'm not listening.
Yeah. The corporate training world is a difficult one in that people are short on time.
Right.
They want big impact quickly.
Yes.
Tell us how you've tried to bring something different to the marketplace and what you've done to really distinguish yourself from other training providers.
Yeah, so when we came to this, we were already doing a lot of visual storytelling. So as the folks who saw me speak this morning know that in an hour-long talk, I deliver about 365 slides. So, and I click about 1,200 times. So it's a highly visual experience. Say dog, see dog. If I'm talking about a dog, I show a dog. We take that same approach to what we're doing in the online training world. So we brought in an award-winning former Xbox game guy from Microsoft and National Geographic. And he really helped us start to think about how do we do short micro modules in the corporate training world that thousands of people can take, but they're gamified, you level up, they are part of the ZPD zone, which is zone of proximal development, not too hard, not too easy, and just ways that just keep people engaged. So we're doing training in cybersecurity, we're doing training in how do you write for mobile, and then we're doing training on how do you actually really sell in a social world. So not just posting, because we say posting isn't prospecting, but how are you using LinkedIn to actually get more meetings? Can I show real results from getting on a platform?
What is the state of the union with communication in general? How bad is it out there, and how many people do we desperately need to change their behavior and their habits as they communicate?
Here's one of the things I love about our Right for Action program, because if you think about it, we spend hours a day in email, and none of us have ever been trained in it. So I was a former journalist, and I came to email and went, why are people sending all these long, meandering emails that do not have a lead, that do not get to the point? So with our SOS Right for Action training, which is SOS is short, organized, skimmable, you really have to teach people how to get down to what's most essential to share, and how to stop talking in our jargony, meandering, sort of corporate language, because we call it the curse of expertise. No one's tuning into that anymore when you're writing to impress rather than inform, or when you know it so well, it's the curse of knowledge. You think you're conveying it, but you're not. So we've got a long way to go, I think, all of us, in terms of writing in ways that are just more powerful. And in the world today, what I think is so fascinating is when no one answers the phone, writing has become more powerful again. Because now I have to get your attention through email or through a LinkedIn request, or, you know, we have to learn to write for mobile. That is a new digital skill. And I don't think people think about that.
It's impossible to teach everyone everything you know, right? But if you could just offer a few nuggets of wisdom with just general corporate communications, what would you steer people to?
So at Mindset Digital, we say everything we do is really based on that stat that we have 8-second attention spans. We have 147 emails coming in our inbox every day. We check our phones. We touch our phones thousands of times a day. We're crazy busy, and we're overwhelmed. So the biggest skill we need now as people in leadership, or as people trying to break through the noise, is the ability to capture attention. And you have to do that by thinking a lot more on the front end about what people need to know. Too often we're just sending it out in the universe and thinking, oh, people will consume it, and we're not. So it's really the ability to capture attention in a hyper-distracted world.
How do you see training advancing? You know, typically we're used to one presenter in a room presenting things, but I think there are new generations we have to think about. Generation Z, they think differently with multitasking, 5 things at a time.
Right.
You know, where is training going?
Right.
I'm curious.
Well, at Mindset Digital, and when we do training either online or in person, something typically moves on the screen every 4 to 6 seconds.
Wow.
It's highly animated. That's why I'm saying I'm clicking so much. You don't notice it. And when you ask the crowd, how many slides do I show? People will say 40, 60, 100, but no one really has an idea of how visual it is. So part of it is we've got to get better at visual storytelling, and we've got to get much better at micro storytelling. And I think those are new digital skills really that we haven't embraced yet.
Yep.
Not
You and I
fully.
had a lovely chat, which I would like to share with the world, on storytelling.
Yes.
And you mentioned that your father, was it your grandfather?
Yeah, my dad was
dad.
an amazing storyteller in Appalachia.
Got it. Yeah.
So yeah,
Which
my
is a story in itself.
It is.
But that power of storytelling is what I want to focus on here and ask you about. My similar story with me and storytelling, and don't you find that some people are like freakishly good at telling stories and others are not? And is that like a DNA thing, or or do you learn those skills? Can you teach those skills?
Yeah. I love this question. And so here's what I think is funny. So I did grow up, my dad was a Southern storyteller, Southern Kentucky. People would come from miles around to hear him tell stories. And I remember when I was little thinking, wow, that is a powerful gift. And certain storytellers, I think, do have a gift. But I have a presentation called The Art of a Powerful Presentation in a Digital Age, which I always say, no pressure. But part of it is realizing, I was coaching a guy the other day, he's a head of a bank, and I realized he'd invested in, improv and rehearsing and trying to get more comfortable on stage. And then I looked at his presentation, and it was not organized. There was no killer opening. He didn't own the ending. And I said, you should spend less time trying to be a good storyteller and spend more time crafting a better story.
Yeah.
So even if you're not a great storyteller, if you have a great story, by default, you'll be a better storyteller. So partly, I think we work on the presentation on the plane before we show up, and then we think, why didn't that go well? Well, it didn't go well because we didn't spend enough time crafting an awesome opening and chapter headings and a killer ending. That's what makes, it's not just a gift, it's also practice and thoughtfulness and designing a good story. And that you can learn.
Yeah. How important is practice to A, presentations, but B, storytelling? And how much rehearsal even do you do yourself for your keynote, for example?
Sure.
I mean, how many times have you given that?
Right.
Probably dozens and dozens. And
Hundreds.
Hundreds
of times.
Yeah.
It's funny. So when I first started out, I really wanted to be, I was a journalist. I was an old school long form narrative writer. I was an investigative reporter. And I thought when I left journalism, and I think a lot of people here feel this way, if I'm not a journalist, what am I? If I'm not a writer, what am I? But when I expanded my thinking about who I am and realized I could be a storyteller, I could do storytelling on stage, it gave me an entirely new way of thinking about journalism. Because journalism does teach you how to tell good stories, and if you can translate that in ways beyond reporting, right? You can transfer it into content marketing, you can transfer it into keynote speaking. But I rehearsed a lot. I often tell people I spent a year every Saturday saying, I'm gonna nail the opening 11 times straight. And if I can't, I'll do it until I can. And I would start from the beginning, and some days it would take me until 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and some days I could finish at 10. But I've learned that when you get on stage and you own the opening, you're just more comfortable throughout. And now I give probably 50 keynotes a year in a lot of countries, 6 countries this year. So I give a lot more talks now than I used to.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about crossing the border of selling on stage versus letting your greatness sell for you. There's a lot of tension there as the chair of a conference, as you can imagine. But why is it a big turnoff for people to hear somebody try to sell them on stage?
I struggle with this all the time.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
you're in the presentation business. I can see that even more.
Yeah, it is a struggle.
Because you're like, okay, this is what by the way, do this what I do. I teach you how to do what I'm doing for a living.
Right. What's a real struggle
but
is
in general,
yeah.
what is going through the head of somebody in the audience?
Right.
why are they turned off by that when the president of a bank tries to sell them on their bank and not a keynote that's trying to add value to the banking industry? Why is there that tension?
So we talk a lot about partnering, not pitching, you know, and so there is a way to say, I want to partner with you and here's how we can help you that doesn't feel like I really want to sell something. So we always say desperation, you know, engagement is good or excitement is good, desperation is not. It's kind of like getting an email with 2 exclamation points. You know, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm super excited to work with you. We call that vendor voice. And it really is where you feel like people feel desperate. They have this vendor voice.
Brilliant.
Versus educating. You know, really saying, no, I really am here to help. And I think because I came out of academia, I remember the first time I thought, oh, they should, I always just expected people to take me to lunch because I was an academic, you know, I taught and I have a PhD in education and I didn't have a vendor, I just didn't have that mindset. And then when you met people that did, you could see the difference. So I do think when you show up and you're an educator, people see that. But at the same time, I used to walk off stage and people would say, I know I want to do business with you, but I have no idea what you do. And so you have to at least navigate, here's what we do, and then move on. If you linger there, I think that's when it starts to feel pitchy.
I love talking about education, and I love talking to PhDs, of which I'm a half a PhD. That's technically what a master's degree. I'm a half a PhD. My dad was a professor of philosophy. But can you ever imagine, by the way, the academic system in this country, I think, is just in really tough shape right now.
It is.
We are not training people, particularly for areas like digital marketing or content marketing. It's awful. But I was thinking about your company and what you do and how amazing it would be to say, wouldn't it be cool to say, okay, you're 18 years old, we're going to bring you through a new kind of a boot camp, you know, a presentation boot camp, a communication boot camp. And we're going to have you intern with our most difficult clients and show them how we fix them and solve their problems. Wouldn't that be fascinating?
It would be really fun. So when I taught graduate courses, I was the last class before the students graduated, and they had to, it was a public policy school, it was in the John Glenn School of Public Policy, and they had to actually pitch to get funding for their research. And they had to stand up and give a visual presentation. And then they had to, we videotaped them being interviewed as if they were being interviewed by a congressional committee. You know, so we were doing a lot of things. And then they had to write a blog post explaining why their research mattered. So it was a lot of how do you get practical skills that you're actually gonna need. They hated it during the class, but later, I had a woman got a job at Facebook, and she said, I got a job at Facebook because they said my presentation was so good. You know, and so later they were like, okay, that was the most useful class I had. So I agree with you that in academia, we've got to think more about what are the digital skills that people really need. So that's
And it's
key.
this, I talked about it this morning in my mini keynote, or whatever you want to call it, but we've got to encourage people to diversify their skill sets and not hyper-focus. You know, we've got to welcome people leaving our company, going getting skills elsewhere, and coming back to our company and not making them feel badly. So what's the biggest, you know, and this is a tough one, I know, but when you're teaching and training and people are learning these skills that you're able to teach them, what impact do you think that can have, B, on their business, and A, on their business, but B, on them personally?
Yeah, I love that question. You know, it's funny, because I used to think, people would say to me, why did you leave a sort of great academic role to start your own company? And
besides making money.
Yeah, but there's a lot of tough things, right, with starting your own business.
It's passion too.
It's,
and the academic,
as you know, you can work any 90 hours a week you want, all that. But part of it was I was standing in front of a bunch of financial advisors teaching LinkedIn and thinking, do I want to do this? And this guy came up to me afterward, and he actually was teary, and he said, I just want to thank you, because it was a 3 full day back then. It was 3 full day boot camp in digital, you know, selling. And he said, I thought I was going to have to retire, and now I realize I can be relevant. I can stay in. And you think, the world's moving so fast, I don't care what age you are, every day you feel like you can't keep up. And I love, my passion is when you feel like you're moving people from reluctant to relevant. You know, they hate this stuff, and then they realize, wait a minute, I can do this. And I mean, I lived it. I was an old school narrative newspaper reporter. I loved long form writing. I hated Twitter. I didn't like this stuff. And then when you start to embrace it, you go, wow, you know, I am more relevant. People are paying more attention to what I'm teaching and what I'm doing. So at the end of the day, I think it's about helping people say, you know what, I can not only keep up, but I can lean in and really get excited about this. And there's real fun in that, you know.
stuff.
Yeah. So
Thank you for being here.
thanks so much.
And,
Really excited to be
honored to
part of
have you
it.
in
It's
the
a really
audience.
amazing conference.
Thank you.
Here, I'm meeting amazing people. People are fired up.
great.
People love the intimacy, and they're just having great conversations. So it's a powerful conference. I'm happy to be part of it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see y'all later.